Hey, listen, before we get into today's episode, let me ask you this. When's the last time you had a proper break? Whether you're a truckie, a shift worker, a parent, or just here for the laughs. We know you're working bloody hard just to keep the wheels turning, and that's why our mates at Nature Bee want to send you on the holiday of a lifetime. We're talking $20,000 worth of travel anywhere in the world. You name it. Fiji, Vegas, the Outback, Rome, Paris, London, doesn't matter. New York, you choose. Stick with us because only Bonafide listeners get the inside scoop on double entry weeks, exclusive offers, and a lot more. So hit the link in the show notes or head to naturebee.com. Read the T's and C's, and I'll tell you more as we roll on throughout the episode of Bonafide, also made possible thanks to Nature Bee.
In a world where voices are silenced,
Please.
one man refuses to lie down.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
He's been punted not once,
40 years they've been trying.
not twice,
You couldn't fire somebody if they were horrible, doing a terrible job.
but 3 times.
You're fired.
He doesn't tell you what to think, but gives you something to think about. Welcome to the Bonafide podcast with Luke Boner. And he's not
All right, here we go.
done
Hold your ears, folks.
yet.
It's showtime.
Well, here we are, episode 77 of another Bonafide production. The Millennial is with me, and there's a fair bit coming your way right now, so stay with us right to the very end. And remember to share, to like,
subscribe,
and tell all your friends. And remember, you can get us on YouTube and Spotify and everything in between.
Oh my God, look at you. Remember when we first started this, you didn't even know really what Spotify was or where we were. I'm so proud of you. You've grown so much.
That's right. Just pat me on the head.
Oh, he's a big zippy.
Give me a pig's ear.
Yeah.
You can call us and leave messages on 0291289311. We love your feedback. Or send us an email, lukebonaradioguy@gmail.com. A very sad day today. We'll get into that in just a second. But coming up, another fascinating conversation with Bill Edgar, the Coffin Confessor. He's got some big news. You know his two books? They're being made into a mini-series.
I do, yeah.
And it looks like it's in the can and ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very exciting stuff. And I've heard some great feedback from people that have listened or read the books. And so they're all very excited that we're going to be seeing it in a mini-series pretty soon.
And you'll never guess the actor that's going to play him.
Ooh.
Oh, you'll find out.
Oh, exciting.
You'll find out.
Is it, okay, give us a clue. Is it an Australian actor or okay.
Huge US actor.
Can I guess right now?
Yes.
Okay.
You know.
Matt Damon.
No.
Oh, I don't know then. I'm lost.
Well, can I tell you or do you want to wait?
No, let's wait. What do you keep them on the hook?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it won't help you for an anti-dentite.
I don't know what that means.
Anti-dentist.
I still don't understand.
You don't watch Seinfeld?
No, I don't.
Okay. Now people are starting to nod.
Okay, keep them guessing.
Okay. We're going to talk to Granny Sue with some old-fashioned Aussie common sense. Truckie Tuesday with Rocket Rod Hannafy. And coming up in just a moment, David Littleproud, leader of the Nationals, in the wake of the terrible, well, it's now been called an act of terrorism that happened at Bondi last Sunday afternoon, the 14th of December. And the vision that came out of Bondi was just unbelievable. And I never thought I'd see something like this since Port Arthur, and we have. We thought we had gun control under control, but one of the shooters, a 50-year-old father, the other shooter was his son, 24, work that out, was a licensed firearm owner, had six guns and was known to police. How did that slip through the cracks?
Yeah, well, I mean, the last we heard as of recording this, the extent to which the police knew him is still, we're still finding out answers to that. But I just think as soon as you're on any list or as soon as anyone in the police department knows your name, you should not be a firearm holder.
Take away, go out there, confiscate his guns, take away his license and keep an eye on him.
I also would be keen to hear from firearms holders because maybe it's just my age. I guess I've grown up maybe with the understanding that the people that can own guns are people that live in regional areas and need them for farming and stuff like that. Can you educate me on who can own guns? Can anyone just own a gun if you have a license?
Yeah, we'll talk about that with David Littleproud shortly, but you can own a gun. You can have a gun, can't have an automatic or a semi-automatic. If you belong to a gun club, a shooters club.
Right, okay.
People who do that for sport. You know that.
Yeah, shooters, yeah.
Those guns have to be under lock and key, and there was talk of legislation in New South Wales anyway. If the only reason you have a gun is because you do belong to a gun or a rifle club, they should be kept on that club's premises.
Yes, yeah.
And under lock and key and a very strict process as to when you can access them. So there's that argument. Look, this will all come under review again. But the wave of anti-Semitism that is right around Australia frightens the hell out of me. And I remember after the October 7 Hamas attack, Gaza, where all those innocent Jewish people, men, women, children were taken, held hostage, raped, killed. There were celebrations in Sydney, anti-Israeli, pro-Palestinian celebrations, and people cracking champagne and cheering and banging drums saying it was a wonderful thing. And I know that David Littleproud will address this shortly, but it's easy to say of people who come from the Middle East that have this prejudice and they bring the prejudice here and spread it. Yeah, those people should probably not be allowed into the country. But we saw, for example, at Sydney University, Australian-born, Australian-educated people celebrating that massacre on October 7. These are people born in Australia. So how have they been radicalised? What makes anyone think that...
Let's just remember, though, that October 7th was the most publicised event, but the war between Israel and Palestine has been quite literally in the making since hundreds of years ago, right? Let's just remember that there's a lot more context around this than just one attack. The sad thing about this is that innocent people on both sides here are all there's going to be retaliation on some scale. And I think that's the saddest thing here is that the innocent people involved in this who just go about their lives, practice their religion, innocent people have been caught in the crossfires of something that really is happening overseas. And that's something that I never thought I would see happen in Australia. I love healthy debate. I love people having the freedom to practice what they will, but violence on any level is unacceptable. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, it is unacceptable. And I never, ever, ever thought that I would see this kind of violence in my lifetime. I really thought this was something that happens in America and in the past. You know, I never, ever thought I would see this. And it's, you know, I've got friends that are dating Jewish boys and some of them are converting. They live in Bondi and they were scared to go home last night. They were scared to travel back to their homes last night. And I just feel absolutely terrible for the Jewish community right now. I cannot imagine how frightened they are just to be living their lives. And to me, that is, I am gobsmacked, Luke. I am genuinely.
We all are. I don't know if you can call this a positive, I guess it is, but a hero that has come out of all of this is a man who owns a fruit store in Sutherland. And he's a 43-year-old. His name is Ahmed Al-Ahmed. And you got who saw what was going on, snuck up between two cars, wrestled this bloke in a headlock, took his gun off him, and I shudder to think how many lives he saved. Oh. And you got to ask yourself, would you be able to do that?
I think we would all like to say that we would, but I don't know if we've got the balls to do it. I'm sure there are people listening to this right now that would have the balls to do something like that, but the courage, he's got children himself and he was thinking about other people's children when he did that. And you know what? Part of me kind of thinks only a parent has the courage to act like that because they know the innocent lives that they're trying to protect. If he doesn't get Australian of the Year, then we've failed as a country.
Yeah, I know. He's unbelievable. And you know, all the first responders, and I'm talking paramedics.
Yeah.
2 police officers were shot in the line of duty. And these are the people that run towards danger when everyone's running away.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, the metal they're made of, isn't it?
Oh, my God. And we've heard it reiterated on, breakfast TV this morning and all that type of stuff. The lessons that were learned at the Westfield shooting and how they were carried through to today.
Westfield Bondi was a stabbing.
Or stabbing, yeah.
But imagine if that lunatic had a gun. Imagine
oh my
Imagine
God.
if he had a semi-automatic. And the thing is, this horrendous story coming out of Bondi yesterday, if that was America, no one would blink.
No one would blink. And I think that's why Australians everywhere are rattled to their core about this, because we don't see gun violence in our backyard.
It's not us.
We don't see it in our backyard, and it is. Honestly, it feels like we're living in a dystopian world right now. If you were to ask me at 10 a.m. yesterday what we would be talking about right now in this room, recording today's ins and outs, this would be the last thing I would have thought we'd be talking about today.
Once again, so many questions have to be asked. I'll talk to David Littleproud about that shortly. How does a man known to police, how is he allowed to be licensed to have 6 firearms? That evil bastard man Monis in the Link Cafe, known to police. In fact, he was released on bail when he should never have even been out on bail.
Isn't that something that we're just hearing over and over and over again, though? It seems every offender that makes it into the news is somebody that was known to police.
And probably on bail.
Why is this so common now?
I don't know.
Something needs to change there.
Yeah, please leave us your comments. Leave us a voice message, 0291289311 if you were in Bondi when it all happened. How did it affect you? What did you see? It's been described today as a day that Australia will never, ever recover from. Well, we've got to learn, we hopefully will recover. There are plenty of people who still haven't recovered after Port Arthur. Did you know when I had my national radio program, I broadcast into Tassie into Hobart and Launceston. And we were talking about this because they were looking at a movie being made about that. And there was a massive protest out of Tasmania. And my good friend and colleague, Spoonman, Brian Carlton, was doing breakfast on Triple M in Tasmania, and I had him on the air. He said the pushback about this is just palpable, that no one wants this made into anything. But he said, get very careful when you talk to me, Luke, and when you talk about it, don't mention the shooter's name.
Right.
It's actually barred in Tasmania.
Right.
No media, television, radio, newspapers, they are not allowed to say or print his name. So that's how very raw it still is.
But also I think don't give them any more notoriety. If you don't say their name, if you don't acknowledge them, then they cannot get power. I think people that act in this way, they want to be feared, they want to feel powerful, and if we refuse to acknowledge them, then they lose a little bit of that power. So I understand that.
Yeah. Anyway, we'd love your feedback on all of this. More on that coming up later on. Look, some more sad news.
I know.
Dr. Keith Suter has passed away. He was 77. He'd had a heart condition for some time that he asked me not to talk about. You knew about it. And I rang Dr. Keith because I knew that he'd had surgery, but he was recovering and had spoken to us since that surgery. Yeah. And I rang him up to see how he was going. And he said, Luke, I'm not working anymore. I said, oh, yes. He said, I'm going. And I'll take this opportunity to say goodbye. I went, what? Do you remember?
I know, yeah.
And he said, I don't know if I'm in the hospital now and I don't know if I'll make it till tomorrow. Well, he made it a few more days. But he passed away and his lifelong partner, Jane, was with him and his family. And so Jane and I spoke on the phone the day after he passed.
Yeah.
And she said, look, he died peacefully. He's made an enormous contribution, which we'll get into in a sec. But he wanted to say to you, Luke, that he really enjoyed your chats. And of all the people he spoke to on a regular basis, you were one of his favourites. And I went, what? And that also he was terribly fond of Kelsey.
Oh.
Because you met him.
Yeah, I did,
at Channel 7 Sunrise, and you would speak to him often, teeing up our chats. He was very fond of you, Kels. He was very, very fond of you. But,
well, that's nice.
But to Keith Suter, his family and Jane, our deepest sympathies. There has been a private ceremony for Dr. Keith, and there'll be a public one early next year. Jane said she'll let us know. But I first met Keith Suter in the year 2000, and he was a regular contributor to Brian Wilshire's radio program. Brian did nights on 2GB and rated his ass off.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I first went to 2GB for the second time in 2000, 2GB was rating 5s, 5, 8, maybe a 6 was a good...
This means nothing to me. You got to...
6% of the audience.
Right, okay.
Right, when Lawsy and Alan Jones were rating
that's bad.
16s and 18s.
Right, okay.
Okay, and this is before Kyle.
So what is good? Over 10 is good.
Depends on how the other stations are going.
Right,
But
okay.
it was down the bottom, and the other talk station that dominated was then 2UE. And Brian was the only person on 2GB that rated.
Yeah.
There were 2 shows that rated on 2GB. The Garden Clinic with Graham Ross.
Yeah. People love gardening.
They beat Shirley Stackhouse and Don Burke. I mean, they lapped them. Again, the Ross is still doing it on 2GB. But the other thing, the cornerstone of 2GB for many years was Brian Wilshire. Brian, I love Brian. He was a bit wacky-doody, very conspiracy theory.
Yeah. We like a little bit of that here.
He was compelling listening, but one of his regular guests, and I think it was on a Thursday, was Dr. Keith Suter. And Keith would come in, they'd talk about world affairs and what Keith was reading at the moment, and Keith would tell you stories that you didn't even know. And that's how I got to know Keith. So that's 25 years ago. And then when I developed my own program, Keith came on with me. He didn't suffer idiots, which is a bit of a flattering thing for me to say because I am one.
Yeah.
He hated tabloid questions.
Yes.
He wanted to talk about real issues.
Well, he's a no bullshit type of guy. He gets straight to the point.
And the thing I loved about him, Kelsey, was you'd never know how he voted because he never gave you any political bias.
Yeah.
He just gave you the facts.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. It's honestly very hard to come by these days to find a reporter that will just give you facts and not an opinion.
So he had many students. He taught students at Boston University, Massachusetts. He had 3 doctorates.
How does someone have time for that?
Standing member of the Uniting Church. He was a member of the United Nations Advisory Board. I mean, unbelievable intellect. I can't imagine he'd be much fun to live with but Jane made it work.
Of course, yeah.
And we're very lucky to have known him and to have had him as a regular on our podcast, hey?
Yeah, very lucky. Very lucky. Luke, you posted a little video on the Facebook page. And the overwhelming response from people was, I think nearly every comment said Keith had a way of explaining complex topics to the layman. And that's why we loved Keith. And that is a skill that is, you can go to journalism school for years and still never gain that skill. It's something that people just have or they don't have. And I think that just goes to show the impact that Keith had educating Australians about what was happening overseas in our backyard, how it's all connected. You know, that is a real skill. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for educating Australians and meeting Australians where they're at and keeping us informed.
If you ever saw him on Sunrise, which is, you met him, I think, on a Sunday when I did a weekend Sunrise. Was it weekend?
No, I think it was a Friday.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, anyway, so it must have been an issue that they called him in on, but he was there every Sunday. But as you know, Kelsey, those Sunrise segments run 6 minutes.
Yes.
Really strictly 6 minutes. It's heavily regulated. The amount of information you learn from him in 6 minutes on sometimes 3 topics
Yeah, I know.
was unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. You need to take a note out of his book.
When I go on Sunrise, I only get 3 because I share it with someone. And then the presenter takes 2.5 minutes for the intro. But he was amazing. Some feedback from Brad. Brad said, despite being brilliantly intelligent, he spoke to us in layman terms we could understand. Always looked forward to hearing from him on your show. He's going to be dearly missed. Thank you, Brad. Brian says he was not biased and he just presented facts and options. A warm, charming expert, much loved by students at WEA. And one more, and there's thousands of them, from Kirsty. So very sad. I loved how he could explain things to make me understand. Was such a wonderful man. Loved his bow ties.
He did have a good collection of bow ties.
Well, he didn't, but sometimes he wore straight ties. But he always had a matching handkerchief and a pinstripe suit. And he was immaculate, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
There's a word for that, and only Keith and people that age would know this word.
What?
He was dapper.
Oh, I love that word. Yeah, he was dapper. He definitely, that is the word that I would use to describe him. Not many people get dressed up for the day, you know?
He was dapper. Rest in peace, Keith, and our love to Jane and your family. Okay, we got a voice message here. Let's hear it.
Hello, my name's Jenny, and I was just listening to John on the podcast. I just want to say to him, keep strong, mate. Don't do anything silly because you got your kids. Live for your kids. I have a son, and the courts and the daughter-in-law did the same to him. Just keep strong. Keep going.
Yeah, it's a good message. I think she's talking about Matt, who we spoke to last podcast. And we're going to discuss that in a bit more detail with the Coffin Confessor a little bit later on today. But yeah, very good message. Stay strong. You've got your kids. And I think he is. He knows that. He knows that.
Yeah, and Matt,
but what about the poem?
I know. And Matt, if you're listening right now, I hope you know that we've had a lot of messages from people saying that they hear you and that you speaking out has helped them.
Yeah. Now, I've got a missed call from Matt. And I texted him back and I haven't heard back. I said, sorry, I missed your call. I was recording. But I will try and give him a ring either today or tomorrow because I just want to stay in touch.
Yeah, of course.
Because he's a great bloke. But that poem that he wrote, Don't Ask Me How I Am, we're going to discuss that in a bit more detail with Bill Edgar, the Coffin Confessor, coming up.
Yeah.
The leader of the Nationals, David Littleproud, on the massacre at Bondi and his thoughts on where Australia is going and what needs to happen. Stay listening for that. David Littleproud, good morning to you on this terrible day.
Yeah, good morning. It's one that our nation shouldn't forget. This is an act of terror where Australians have been slaughtered, and particularly those of the Jewish faith have been pinpointed in that attack. And that's not the Australia I grew up in, and that's not the Australia I want to leave behind. And we've got some big questions to answer as a nation.
You say that there are so many questions. My God, there are. I saw Josh Frydenberg, the former treasurer, on Sunrise this morning. He just looked absolutely shattered. And he says, you know, the Prime Minister today has said he's going to embrace the Jewish community and stamp out anti-Semitism. But Josh Frydenberg says, well, hang on, their words. Look at the anti-Semitic protests and hatred. I can't help but think back to the anti-Israel protest celebrations after October 7 that happened in Sydney. The Australian government recognising Palestine. I don't want to politicise this, but has there been enough done by this government to stamp out this hatred?
No. And let's be honest, this is a time for honesty. On the 7th of October 2023, there was an act of terror perpetrated on innocent people in Israel. On the steps of the Sydney Opera House, we had imams celebrating that. Those are the men that were continuing to perpetrate hate and that message to its followers beyond that. And that was the biggest cue that Anthony Albanese in this government could have seen. Prepared to openly in our society come out and celebrate an act of terror should have been the biggest cue for any government to make sure that they did more. Now, the fact is that they created an anti-Semitism envoy who gave recommendations about what the government could do extra in making sure they support the Jewish community, but making sure we stamp this out, that we don't allow this hate to be imported from the Middle East into Australia. That they understand if you come here, you come with our values, our beliefs. If you don't like it, you're not welcome. But instead, they've been ignored. And the reality is this has culminated to a tragic event. And it is time for us as a country to actually understand that there isn't she'll be right sort of attitude's going to cut it anymore here in Australia. Our society has shifted, and it's shifted to a point that has put people in danger because of their religious beliefs, and that is not the country that I grew up in or the country we should leave behind. That means that we need stronger leadership, not weasel words, not anything other than a leader that is going to stamp this out with authority, in terms of that is bred within here, and that could potentially be imported into this country. That's what Australians want now. They should be angry that there are Australians today who lost their lives because of their belief. I grew up where it didn't matter what your religious belief was. You're allowed to be able to worship and celebrate that belief anywhere in the country. That is what Australia should be, and the fact that it isn't is a blight on our society.
There's so many more questions. So we now know that the two shooters, one was a 50-year-old, the 24-year-old who's survived and is in hospital. At the dropping of this podcast, things change all the time, were father and son. And the father was actually licensed to have 6 weapons. I thought that after Port Arthur and John Howard's gun control laws, I never thought we'd see this again. How can somebody be licensed to have 6 weapons, David?
Well, you can be licensed, but the issue that I've got with this is not so much about the licence, but about the fact that we've already got the New South Wales Police Commissioner and the ASIO Director both saying that this individual who had this licence was known to them and effectively was someone that they had an interest in. Now, this isn't about the gun licence, this is about process. Why wouldn't? If someone is of interest to intelligence agencies and New South Wales Police, and I suspect counter-terrorism unit, why wouldn't those weapons and that licence be seized from that individual? That's why you have those licences, so that you can actually identify who these people are. And the fact is that I think in the fullness of time, we need to investigate this. But I'm more disappointed in the fact that authorities saw this person with a licence and continued to allow them to have weapons, and they knew that they had 6 weapons because they had that licence. So the licence did its work. The issue is that I don't think the process has followed the way it should. I would have thought that there would have been preemptive steps by law enforcement agencies to revoke the weapons and to revoke the licence, and that is why you have a licence. So I think it's more about a process issue here that I think there's questions to be answered, particularly by law enforcement agencies about how this was allowed to happen. If they were on a watch list and you knew that they had a licence and they had 6 weapons, wouldn't you have done something about it before they got to use it?
Exactly. It just beggars belief. David Littleproud is with us. David, everybody is talking about that 43-year-old father of 2, Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who owns a fruit shop in Sutherland, who is just unbelievably brave. He put the man in the head, one of the shooters, I think the son, in a headlock. It took his gun off him, and that's all caught on video. Everyone has seen it 100 times. Unbelievable act of bravery, yeah?
Oh, I mean, that just goes to show that our society isn't broken, that the vast majority, and in this case, in such a heroic way, there's individuals that would protect our freedoms, that would protect one another in that hour of need. And that should give us hope, that those actions of Ahmed should give us hope that our society isn't broken. There's work to be done, but it's not broken because you've got individuals that are prepared to put their lives on the line to save their fellow Australian in what is a horrific act of terror, of slaughter, that they were prepared to go and put themselves on the line and save other Australians. I think shows that our society should be proud of the things that we have achieved, and that we should celebrate someone like Ahmed, who has done one of the most amazing acts of bravery when you consider the circumstances and what was happening around him, to have the presence of mind, but the courage to go and do that is, you often you sit there and ask yourself, well, would I have the courage to do what he has done? And then for him to have the self-control not to pull the trigger himself, to eliminate the threat, You just can't. Those are questions you can't answer. But he's answered them and answered them in an emphatic way that every Australian should be proud of.
You do. That's the first thing I said. I thought, would I do that? And you'd like to say yes, of course you would, but you don't know until you're there. But what about all the first responders, the police officers? 2 police officers shot, the paramedics, people who run towards danger when everyone else is running away.
Yeah, and the lifeguards.
And the lifeguards.
The lifeguards there were. There were Australians there everywhere that. In that hour of need, went and helped their fellow Australians. And that's why I say our society's not broken. We've got some problems, and these problems should have been addressed earlier. But we shouldn't give up hope on what our country is, because that is what it is to be Australian, that you've got those first responders. I mean, in our society today, we make all this of social media influencers and stylists and all these sort of sports stars, but the real heroes of our society are the men and women who put uniforms on to serve their nation, to serve their country, to serve their community, and to put their lives on the line. Those are the modern-day heroes, not these buffoons that get on social media and try to get clickbait. The real heroes and the ones that keep our society centred and balanced are the men and women who are prepared to put uniform on, to give back to their community, and to put their lives on the line. That's what the people that we should be celebrating as a nation, more so than social media influencers.
Yeah. David, I know you've got to go, but one last thing, and you have kind of answered it, but I just wanted you to clarify, because a lot of the media coverage today from both media and indeed the community leaders are saying that what happened in Bondi on the afternoon of the 14th of December has broken Australia, and Australia will never be the end, and Australia will never be the same again. And I remember thinking the same thing after Port Arthur and the Lint Cafe. By the way, the Lint Cafe man Monis was known to police and was out on bail. So that's another topic. Has this brokenness? Will we ever be the same? What have we got to do to fix this?
We've got to have leadership. We've got to call this out. We've got to call out what's happened. We've got to call out the fact that there are people that are in our country and are prepared to come to our country that will bring hate and permeate that hate that exists in other parts of the world. And we can't accept that. We've got to call it out, and there's got to be a consequence. There's got to be a deterrent for those that are already here, and for those that want to preach that hate. They need to be pulled up, and they need to be put away from society, so they can't influence people in a way that would lead to these sort of actions. And those people that try to get into this country, we should have a values test about who's coming to this country, the values they hold, and whether they align with our values. Because if they don't, they shouldn't be welcome. This is a big warning light to Australia, to reset, to recast, to be able to preserve what we have, and we are the custodians of that for the next generation. And unless we have the courage and the honesty to stand up and say there are things that need to change, there are things that need to be changed where we are going to have to impinge on the individual rights of some who want to permeate hate just because it's the trendy thing to do, well, we got to worry about the greater good. We've got to worry about the greater nation that we will leave behind. And that's why there's honest questions that need to be answered now is about leadership of what we're going to do to rid ourselves of these animals that would permeate and portray this hate in our society at the moment, and what we're going to do to stop those that want to come to this country and also do that. That's the hard questions that we've got to be prepared to answer. That's what we should be focused on. That's what if we had a Prime Minister that had the courage to do it, he would be focused on that this morning.
The thing I just could not fathom was after those terrible Hamas attacks on Gaza back in 2023, October 7, there were university students at Sydney Uni celebrating, cracking champagne, talking into megaphones. These were students who were celebrating the attack and the taking away of innocent Jewish people and held hostage, as we know, for a long, long time, killed, raped, maimed. They were celebrating that. And these were students at a Sydney university born here.
Because this is the hate that is being perpetrated into the minds, young minds of Australians. And this is This is where we've got to stamp it out at every level. And, many of those university students would probably have lifestyles that probably would mean that they would face a very, very ordinary life in the Middle East.
Yeah.
They're not as liberal as what they would like. And this is where the reality of what's being taught in our universities, all our institutions, our churches, they need to be held accountable. And if they're not, this is what happens. This is what happens to a society. You change the society to a point where people are not safe because of a particular belief that they have in religion. That's not Australia. That's not Australia we should leave behind. And we've got a responsibility to make sure we fix it for the next generation.
Coming up, you will hear the Coffin Confessor, Bill Edgar. Do you know, I was at my granddaughter's first birthday down the South Coast on the weekend, and I think there were about 20 people there, guests that came along to say hello, and nearly every one of them listens to the podcast and were enthralled by Bill Edgar.
Oh, yeah.
Well, where did you find this cat,
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Wait till you hear who looks like playing him in the miniseries, which is coming up.
Oh, I'm so excited to find out.
Oh, you'll love it.
Ooh.
Bill Edgar and the Coffin Confessor coming up.
There's a line that's open just for you. Call 912 9311. That's cool. 912 9311. Leave it all there. Say what you need. Luke Bonus, listen. You don't have to be alone tonight.
Folks, it is time for another Coffin Confession session with our good mate Bill Edgar, who joins us from time to time here on the Bonafide podcast. Mate, you are gathering a massive following amongst our listeners, so thank you very much for keeping this boat afloat.
Oh, mate, it's been terrific. And I got to shout out to you guys because your following, I mean, so many of your listeners are just, sending me emails and support, and it's great. It's great to hear their own stories too.
Well, you are full of great stories, and you're a man of enormous empathy and common sense, a bloke who's been there and done that. So we love to hear your little pearls of wisdom from time to time. So thank you very much, Billy. I've got something interesting to tell you, and you may not be aware of this, but at the time of recording our chat with you, it's December 11. Do you know what day that is?
December 11? No, I don't.
December 11 is World Breakup Day. It is a day where couples, it's enough time before Christmas and the New Year, it's a time for reflection, and statistics have shown that December 11 is the world's most popular day to break up a relationship, and it has, since Facebook or Meta has been in existence, it is the number one date, apparently, that people change their relationship status on Facebook. December 11, what do you make of that?
Well, I mean, what can you make of it? The relationship isn't that strong then. I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? I've been with my wife 41 years. I mean, we all go through ups and downs, and it's one of those things that you've got to be able to communicate and tell each other just how much they mean to you, and the care, the love, the support. And if that doesn't work, then move on.
The millennial was reminding me that December is also a month where some significant people have passed away. And I was actually on air at 2LF in Young on December 8, 1980. Does that date ring a bell?
Oh, yeah. Imagine all the people.
I couldn't believe it when on the news, I think it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, we took Macquarie National News, and John Lennon had just been shot by Mark Chapman, a bloke he just signed an autograph for, incidentally. I still reel from that news.
I'm the same, someone like John Lennon getting shot and then throughout the decades now, the people that have been killed is just horrendous, but the people that stand out, is someone like John Lennon. I mean, of all the people in the world, you wouldn't think he would be the one that was shot and killed, and by somebody that actually got an autograph, somebody that, looked up to the guy. I mean, I don't get it, but, that's the world, isn't it,
And then every Christmas, how you hear the Christmas songs on the radio. Can we not talk about Mariah Carey at this point? Let's just brush her aside. But Happy Christmas War is over. John Lennon and Yoko. I mean, so this is Christmas, and so you hear that every December.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a beautiful song. It's great, but at the same time, I guess that's his legacy, isn't it? That's what he left. But I'll tell you one thing about John Lennon and Yoko is that John Lennon wanted nothing more than to be buried. Okay, that's what he wanted. That was his wish, to be buried. Yoko Ono had him cremated. That's why there's a Coffin Confessor.
Wow. I wonder why she did that.
Well, some people, they take authority over the person that's died and they just do what they think's best. Usually it's not for them, but, for the deceased, it's for them more than anybody else. It's sad, but that's what happens in death. A lot of people die hoping or thinking that their loved ones will fulfill their wishes, but you know what? They don't.
I know. It's very, very strange. It's if you've got some thoughts on any of this, please let us know. lukebonaradioguy@gmail.com and leave us a voice message on 0291289311. Regular listeners to the podcast will know all about your amazing story. It's amazing. It's horrendous. It's sad. It's uplifting the way you've come through it. And I understand that you've just signed a deal to turn your story into a series. Now, take us right through this. What is this story?
Yeah, it's amazing. I was contacted by a guy in LA called Tech Gold, who's very, very well known over there. Him and his partner, Kobe Ray, they decided to get together and they read my book. They read both books and they were astonished. They said they read it in a couple of days. They couldn't put it down. And this has to be a show. And I was excited, because I'd been approached many times by, even Australian producers, but they all wanted to go a direction I didn't really like. And it was the PI direction and not the Coffin Confessor direction. And I think there's too many PI shows. There's been, the shows are flooded with PI shows, but I wanted it to be unique. And they came to me with an offer and an idea and a concept, and I just loved it. I loved everything about it. So I signed the deal with them. And, so, I mean, obviously it's now the festive season, so there's a lot on hold. However, they are speaking to Bryan Cranston and a few other stars like Woody Harrelson. So it is exciting.
It is so exciting. How much creative input are you going to have in this? I'm just worried that they might censor some things you don't want censored. Maybe there's some stuff in the book or the two books that you don't want them to talk about. What input do you have?
Yeah, they've given me quite a lot, and there's nothing off limits, nothing at all. So I don't have a problem with that. But they have given me a lot of creativity. So I'll be sort of sitting at the writer's desk, which is really cool. I'm really enjoying the concept and going back and forth with them at the moment and talking about what's to come and how it's going to play out. I do, whilst I love the Australian directors and all their work and all that, the people that approached me wanted it to be mainly Australian only for Australian audiences. And it's too big. It's too big for Australia. It had to go global and, like the book has. I mean, the book's now in China, India, Japan. It's going global. So it's one of those stories that resonates with every person on the planet because we're all going to die, every one of us.
Kelsey's in-laws or future in-laws, Nathan's parents, Steve and Lisa, they listened to your audiobook while they were traveling around Australia. And Steve has got a question for you. His background story was so interesting, and you can see how it's hardened you into the person you are today. I'm using his words. The Coffin Confessor stuff is funny because it's what you'd love to do sometimes, but your backstory was so compelling and so sad, it's hard to listen to at stages. it'd be good to know how you deal with the early trauma. He wants to know how you dealt with it. And he wants to know, does he talk about it, obviously for the book, or does he suppress it? That's a question from Steve.
Oh, I definitely don't suppress it, and I use it to empower myself. I always have. I've been on the edge of death. I've knocked on death's door many times, and each time I came to the resolution that I'm a better person than that. I'm a better man, and I'm going to fight it, and I did, and I kept fighting. I screamed, I yelled, I shouted, I kicked, I did everything I can to expose it. I wouldn't let it rest. So it's very difficult for people to let trauma or something like that empower them, but I made sure it did, and I had to. I had a young wife, I had young children, I had, and I'll be honest with you, it didn't all hit me and subside and come crumbling down on me until I became an empty nester. My wife had horses and her love for riding. I had nothing. I had my family, but then they grew up, they met partners, beautiful people, and they moved on. And so I thought I wasn't needed anymore. And I sat around and I kept thinking about my own life and how it was bad. And I started to go into this whirlwind of depression. And then all of a sudden I went, fuck that. I've been there, done that before. I'm not doing it again. So I started writing. I put pen to paper and I did what I did, but I use it to empower, but I'll never be silenced. I always, even on your podcast, Luke, I share them on the Lost Boy of TSS Facebook page, because that's where people come forward and they go, you know what? I need to stand up. I need to yell. I need to scream, shout, and they need to be exposed. It's horrendous what's going on in the world with, the way it's going. But, the more people that stand up and shout, the better it is. There's always that saying that for evil to progress, good men stand silent, and you can't stand silent.
So tell me, this ban in Australia now on under 16-year-olds not being able to get access to social media, and mind you, at this point, it's just 10 platforms that they're talking about. Do you think that will have a positive effect on our youth? Do you think it will save lives? Do you think it will help stop bullying? Will it help our kids to stop getting access to content that they shouldn't be looking at? What do you make of it?
Well, I look at it this way. The government has to impose something, like they do with alcohol, cigarettes, driving, everything else. There are laws and restrictions, okay? You can't drink until you're 18. You can't go into a bar until you're 18 and order a drink. Okay, some slip through and some do, but that's life. That's how it works. Social media, they have to do something. So they're doing this in a way that they're saying, look, we're the lawmakers. We've put in a law. However, you're still a parent. You've got a parent. And if you find your child on social media, or if you're assisting them on social media, okay, but let's help them navigate the path. I can understand people saying the government's taking away, freedoms and control and things like that. But if you look at it in another way, that the government has to do something like gun control. Something had to be done, okay? And they've done it. It doesn't mean you can't have a gun.
But it worked.
Exactly. It did work. And it doesn't mean you can't have a gun. You can still do the license requirements and get a gun. Now, under 16, not on social media. Okay, we've got grandchildren now. I don't want them seeing the shit that's on social media anyway. I don't want them bullied and all that. However, their parents are very well equipped to be able to navigate that for them as well. So I think, it's a case that it's got to work two ways. Yes, they're banned, but yes, they've got to at least know about it and, go through other channels of other things that aren't banned to help them. There's games there that still aren't banned that I believe should be banned. I mean, I reckon some of them are horrendous, but, it is what it is at this stage.
Yeah, it's interesting because people do get upset whenever censorship of any sort is brought in. Criminals will always be able to get what they want.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not like it's like cigarettes. I mean, it's a black market. There's black markets everywhere, and the black market will continue to exist. I mean, unfortunately, the governments do get things wrong, and it has got things wrong. I mean, the tax on cigarettes is blown out that bad for people that now the criminals are, using that to, and unfortunately the government's probably gone, oh shit, we've done a mistake here, but we're not going to backpedal. and we can't backpedal. And unfortunately, they're going to have to one day because it's rife what goes on. But unfortunately, that's another thing. People in the community and all that, they look at the government and they go, God, you guys make some stupid decisions. You really do. But if the government only listened and said, hey, sorry, we fucked up. We're going to reverse this, or we're going to change this, and we're going to help, instead of just a black line. But anyway.
I just want to get back to the John Lennon Yoko Ono thing, because you posted something on Facebook this week, and I want to talk to you about it. You were talking about when someone dies and a family member interferes with what your wishes really were. And you just mentioned the perfect example, how John Lennon wanted to be buried and Yoko Ono ended up cremating him. Only she knows the answer to that. In that video, you said that you had been messaged by the Catholic Church because you were crossing professional boundaries. Bill Edgar, what's that about? What does that all mean?
That means that they think that I'm doing confessions. Oh. They think that I must have a house where people come and see me and sit beside in a closed curtain area and confess their sins.
From behind a screen.
which is ludicrous, because if I'm, they're saying I'm crossing confessional boundaries. At the end of the day, the boundaries they've crossed are imaginable. You can't even go near the boundaries they've crossed. But look, I don't. I have no care or concern for the church. It is what it is. I do what I do for those that they could be religious, and they may not be, but that's up to them. I mean, I am not religious. I'm spiritual, and I say that in a way that I've already been to hell. I've lived in hell. So, I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious. And if I'm crossing professional boundaries, all I can say is that if the Catholic Church has noticed, then I'm doing something right.
That is really interesting, because I was talking on 2GB this morning with Phil O'Neill about religion versus spirituality and how woke we are becoming. And because Christmas is around the corner, I'd like to ask you about Christmas, because you may or may not agree whether it's actually the birth date of Christ. But to me, Christmas, the spirit of Christmas and the goodwill, try and get rid of all the marketing and all the retail and all that. But when I grew up in an innocent time, Christmas was a fun time for kids. Everyone seemed in a good mood and there was a great vibe. Can I use that? There was a great vibe. I'm not sure whether you're aware of this or not, but for years there has always been a huge Christmas tree in Martin Place in Sydney. And David Jones, for years, has always had this wonderful window display. And it was mechanical, and you'd stand outside and watch the elves and Santa and all of that. And it was just fascinating. Well, David Jones has taken it away. And on the big Christmas tree, which is in Martin Place, it's where the MLC Centre used to be. It's 14 and a half metres, this huge tree. The tree says, Happy Holidays. And it no longer says Merry Christmas. They're obviously trying to appease people who are offended by Christmas. What do you make of that?
I think we're all trying to appease people, aren't we? That seems to be the thing these days. Everyone's appeasing appeasers. For me personally, I'll be honest with you. The birth of Jesus, I believe, and I truly believe, yes, there may have been a man named Jesus Christ, just like there was a man named Nelson Mandela. Just like there was a man named Elvis Presley. I mean, there's great people in the world. So it's just, it's one of those things that may have been. Not a problem there. I don't have a doubt in my mind that there may have been. However, through time, the stories change and it is what it is. And people have their own religions, their own beliefs and that. But when you come to today, I got to say, Luke, our generation's gone. No one will ever live in our generation again.
Yeah.
We lived in a generation where, like I've always said, you went out early, you came home when the streetlights came on, people were excited about holidays. You had one parent working, you had one car, you had a house, 3 bedrooms and 1 toilet. I mean, sometimes 9, 12 people living in it. As for things like, taking away names like, and Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays or Season's Greeting, whatever it is. I think we're becoming a society where we're so entrenched in sorry, which is a real pain in the ass because we're sorry for everything.
We are
and
sorry
we've got to
for
stop being sorry and just go, you know what? We apologise, but we're moving on. We're moving past it and we're still doing what we do and love and create for the people. So I've got to say, me personally, I never had a good Christmas as a child.
No.
I can't remember one in my whole life.
Yeah,
what I
it's a
can
shame.
remember is every Christmas I've had with my children have been absolutely unique and beautiful and the best. And the one coming up, just as good as every other's because I'm blessed to have them. So, you know, I just, I got to say, if I see the Christmas tree and it says Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas or whatever it says, it's not the wording, it's nothing else. It's the actual image of the tree for me. And I look at it and I go, wow, that's cool. You know, so I don't look at the politics of anything anymore. I used to. Now I don't. I look past all that and I go, what a beautiful tree. You know, and it just makes me feel good.
I just think it's a shame that they say Happy Holidays and not Merry Christmas. I think it's a shame because we're catering to people who may or may not be offended. Can I tell you a story? And I know you're the guest, but can I tell you a story? Because I'd love your reflection on this. Many years ago when I was on Sydney radio, and I forget which station I was on, might have been 2GB, we got reports that there was a shopping centre in southwest Sydney in a very heavily populated Muslim community. And this particular shopping centre took photos with Santa away, and they stopped playing Christmas carols over the loudspeaker system. And people contacted the station and wanted to know why. And so I persevered with this, and I eventually got onto centre management. And they said, because we come from a heavily populated Muslim area, we didn't want to offend our shoppers in our shopping centre with Christmas carols. And I said, oh, that's interesting. How many complaints from the Muslim community did you get? Do you know what centre management told me?
None.
None. They had just assumed it was going to be offensive. So they took Christmas carols off their PA system. Well, the pushback from the retailers was amazing as well, their tenants, because when people hear Christmas music, they feel festive and they're more likely to spend more. You with me? So anyway, they put the Christmas carols back on, not one complaint. But my point is there wasn't a complaint in the first place. Centre management assumed it was going to be offensive when there was no offence in the first place.
I get it. And that's where you come down to, you know, the old story or the old saying that regulators need regulating. You know, centre management took the view that, you know, there was going to be drama and they did something about it without even knowing if there was going to be drama or not. I don't know. It's crazy.
It's like the old saying, why fix something when it ain't broken?
Yeah, I know. Well, you could say that to the Bomb Weather Bureau, but look, you know, I got to say, just the other day, I went shopping for my grandson's, you know, birthday, which is the 22nd of December. And, you know, you walk past and you see kids lined up getting photos and the Christmas songs and it makes you feel good. I love it. I reckon it's pretty cool. And it's something that we can all either get involved in or you don't have to. It's like walking past a synagogue, a church, a mosque. You want to go in, go in. You don't.
I'm with you. I just couldn't believe it. They assumed that there was going to be offence and there wasn't one complaint. And not one complaint when the Christmas music came back. It's a true story. Bill, Edgar, on a serious note, recently on this podcast, we were joined by a bloke called Matt. Now, Matt is a father, and he shared a horrendous story about navigating the family courts. Research shows that the family courts are, without a doubt, biased against men. The scales of justice tip well and truly in favour of a woman making a complaint. And there is a real human cost here. His life's back on track now, but it'll never be the same because of the injustices shown to him in the family court law, in the law courts. Can I just ask you to close your eyes and have a listen to this poem by Matt?
It's hard to fight the emptiness when hopelessness abounds. It's hard to fight the tears when depression does its rounds. It's hard to get up off the mat when you've lost your joy. It's hard to fight the stormy seas when you're an unhooked boy. What does the world expect of me? To take my lot in life. In silence, take my medicine, in good times and in strife. In silence, just accept the accusations full of lies, so show sympathy towards the biting viper as she cries. Accept that I'm not worthy of my child's affection, that to the apple of my eye I'm just a bad infection. But my love isn't good enough, and I act like I'm their owner. But I am not their father, I am merely the sperm donor. You think because I worked so hard and worried about the bills, was fiscally irresponsible and made sure our cupboard fills. That money was my one true love, no other could suffice. You talk about a mother's love and not my sacrifice. You didn't see those nights away when for you all I'd pine. The days I worked through shocking health and said that I was fine. I did this to provide and hoped of me you'd be proud of. To you this was abandonment and not an act of love. And now the apple of my eye is nowhere to be seen. A giant hole of darkness sits where my heart had been. I cry and yell and whimper, oh please God make it stop. But apparently this torture's something I'm just supposed to cop. And if I show emotion, well that's gross manipulation. And any facts I bring to light don't warrant investigation. But in this broken system, lies end up rewarded. An unfit mother's custody is socially applauded. This system is so broken, it is malevolent. It's the reason suicide is now so prevalent. This system takes a life, enjoy it, screams woo-hoo, because that means there is simply one less thing they have to do. So I'll sit here in silence and say thank you for each whack, and each day find a stake to keep the black dog off my back. Have a shot of concrete. Real men, they don't cry. That attitude is why so many men just want to die. My hope is in Jesus, but even I have been so flogged. My self-esteem and sense of worth are broken, drowned and bogged. But many men don't share my hope, no wonder they feel lost. We fight and fight and fight some more, despite the dreadful cost. But each day I'll get up and put one foot before the other. And do my best to try and be a father, son and brother. I'll do my best to smile and laugh and hide that it's a sham. This I'll do, just please, don't ever ask me how I am.
Yeah, pretty powerful, isn't it? Pretty powerful.
So he went through the family court system, but the hell that he went through, he nearly took his life, as you can tell. Your reflection, Bill, I'll let you talk.
Oh, Luke, I've been employed and engaged by lawyers, working for the family courts to dig up dirt on men, abusive men that weren't abusive. So I understand this man's plight. I understand what he's saying. The system is a system that is designed and set up for the average person to fail, and fail they will. It has always been that way, that a woman will be believed first and foremost. It is, the system is rigged and it's the way it is. I do have to say that whilst a lot of men are sitting back there thinking, this is terrible, it's going to be the end of my life, I've lost my loved one. And in the end, the children make their own decisions. And that's the most beautiful part of this whole thing, because I've got to say that whilst the circumstances are a bit different, I was in his position in 1990. My wife left me with 2 kids because I wasn't suitable. I wasn't the man that she thought I'd be, a worker. I'd been in and out of jail. I tried, I'd fail. I try, I fail. That's life. And she took the kids. And fortunately she did, because it gave me enough strength in that to do what I did and become a better man. However, there was no abuse. There was no, drinking, smoking, anything involved there. It was just purely, I wasn't man enough to look after my family. I wasn't capable enough to. And she wanted to go through the courts, and I decided, okay, look, just take him, just go, because I didn't want the courts involved. I didn't need any of that in my life. I needed to just show her that I was going to be a better man, and I did. However, in his circumstances, he didn't have a choice. Like most men, don't have a choice. But I've got to say, the hardest thing to do is to sit back and do nothing, because doing nothing is doing something. Believe it or not, doing nothing is doing something. You just keep doing what you're doing. Those children will turn around and see the better man in you. And it does. It prevails. It's sad. It's hard. It's, wow, it was a powerful poem, and I'm glad he's where he is today, but and I'm glad he's able to tell other people and to come out and be strong enough to do that, because it's not something, like he said, we're to drink a cup of concrete. Harden up, toughen up. I was told that through my whole life when I was being abused. Harden up, toughen up. That's bullshit. That demographic of us staying strong and not showing our weaker side. No, bullshit. That's crap. And you know what gets me these days, though? So many young men disguise their hurt and their feelings by taking steroids, going to the gym and masking their true self. Yes, they get huge. Yes, they get big. Yes, they get anger issues. Yes, they get roid rage. And that's all a mask. You see through that, and then all of a sudden they know, be true to yourself.
I don't know whether you're into Shakespeare or not, but one of my favourite quotes is from Hamlet. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, for thou canst not then be false to any man. Huh.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a shame we live in a world that we do, but we created it, and the love of a father, to his children is just immeasurable. It's just, yeah.
But why is it then that in the family law court, when someone has lied and it's been proven that they've lied, why aren't they charged with perjury?
Well, that's because it's the family law court, and the law courts can't do that. They can recommend they be charged, but the family law courts can't do that. They can only recommend things like that happen. The family law courts only have the square.
But you're lying under oath, Bill.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I understand what you're saying, but the law courts, the family law courts, have boundaries, and they can recommend that person be charged for lying in court. But do they ever? No, hardly ever. I mean, it's a sad state, but the one court I hate with venom is the family law court. I really do. I will never work for them again. I will never work for a lawyer engaged for me to look for the bad in somebody when there is none. It really pisses me off. I just don't like that sanction. In most cases, I find that the male got angry and pissed off that he doesn't get to see his kids, and that's natural. The lies that are told, I mean, why is it always the woman's the victim? The man can be the victim and is no doubt mostly the victim sometimes when it comes to not seeing their children.
Give us an example when you were a PI where you said you would never work for the family law courts again, or never work for a lawyer that's hell-bent on making someone look criminal when they're not, without giving away the case or mentioning any names. But can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so there was an elderly gentleman that lived in a house that backed onto a park, and a young lady used to walk her dog around that park all the time. Now, that elderly gentleman's wife passed away, right? And he was sitting having a coffee, and this lady would walk past every morning, say hi, and then get to know him, and then he told her story. And then one day, she's walking around crying, and he asked her what was wrong, and she said she's being abused by her husband and had to leave the relationship. He said, look, there's a spare room in the home. You can move in and just look after yourself and do whatever.
Be safe.
Yeah, she happily accepted. After 3 months, she bought an engagement ring without him knowing, was unaware what was going on. But at 1 o'clock in the morning, she called police in a violent state saying she was being bashed and abused. She knocked herself up, destroyed a bit of furniture. Police rushed in at 1:30 in the morning, arrested the old elderly gentleman, took him away and told him he couldn't go back to the house for 6 months while she lived there. And she had all his possessions.
All right. Quick pit stop, folks. Let's talk holidays. Now, be honest. The road in front of you, the treadmill under your feet, or that pile of dishes in the sink, it's getting old. Now, picture this. Swapping the dish soap for an icy Bingtane. Imagine the endless stretch of highway turning into a stretch of white, sandy beach. Or that treadmill. Suddenly, it's the climb to Machu Picchu. Now, that's the feeling Nature Bee wants to give you with their bucket list competition. a chance to win $20,000 worth of travel anywhere you choose. And if your dream trip costs less, well, the rest is yours as spending money. You keep the change. Plus, there are plenty of little wins too. Gift vouchers to turn a long weekend into something special. And Nature Bee prize packs to give your insides the reset of a yoga retreat. All you need to do is spend $79.90 or more on Nature Bee products and you are automatically in the draw. So if you've ever thought of trying Power Pollen, this is the time to do it. Hit the link in the show notes or head to naturebee.com. Read the T's and C's and who knows, next time you're listening to Bonafide, you could be listening to us from the beach.
Now, they believed her because she was a victim. However, my investigation found that she wasn't married. She wasn't engaged. While she put the engagement ring on, he had no clue about all this stuff that was going on. She was a scammer, and yet she used the system. She used that system. Now, his children went to the courts, and they said it's a family court issue. I got involved. I did the investigation. The courts at the very start said, look, the man's actually not allowed to go near his home. That's a police order. We're going to extend that order for 12 months. She was able to live in that house for 12 months and sell all his possessions, get rid of stuff, and she even subletted it. So she made a lot of money from him. And he ended up going into a nursing home where he became so upset and violent that they sedated him, and he had no idea who he was, where he was, and why he was where he was. In the end, because she was his so-called fiancée, the children had to fight her. And at the very end, my investigation proved that she was lying, she was deceitful, she was everything else. And her lawyer, whilst he understood that, he agreed to a settlement from the children to get rid of her. So she got paid out.
Can I just say this, though? We don't want to automatically jump to the conclusion that all women are liars as well, because domestic violence is a real problem in this country. We don't want to automatically think that someone who's made a complaint about being sexually abused or raped or assaulted, or a child makes a complaint about an adult sexually assaulting them. You know, you want to err on the side of the child, and sexual assault and domestic violence is a real problem. So how do we draw the line? It's a very, 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 very thin line that we walk, isn't it?
Oh, it's the finest line forever. I mean, and that's the thing. You can't just say all women are liars and all men are great and all men are liars and all women are great. I mean, it's one of those things that once, and I believe that once there is an allegation, both parties obviously have to be separated, and there has to be an investigation. It has to be quick, but it has to be thorough, because there's too many of them going on. It's not always easy. An investigation's hard, you know, because there's three truths. There's theirs, yours, and the truth. You know what I mean? So
Matt admits that,
it's really hard. But domestic violence is one of the worst things that, you know, you could possibly imagine. And I've been involved in a few, even some mates in the past that I've had to, you know, get rid of and say, look, that's just, you can't do that. It's just wrong. But the law is adequate enough at this stage to separate the two, and then it's up to the justice system. And that's where we fail. I think the justice system it sort of doesn't reflect what the investigations take into consideration. And I wonder sometimes, being in the system, if the system is that overcrowded and that rush, that the adjudicators, the judges and that, they haven't got time. They haven't got time to read it all. I reckon they're in their car on the way to work sometimes to the courthouse, and they're listening to an audio of what's being played, and they get the court and they go, okay, well, listen, I know this lawyer. He's a great lawyer. He tells the truth. I'm going to stick with his words, and that's it. However, where did the lawyer get his information from? One side? You know, so it'd be a hard job.
Let me ask you this, because Australia is horrified at some of the findings coming out of abuse that's taking place in childcare. Now, if a child goes to mum and dad, or mum or dad, or a teacher, and says, Uncle Harry has touched me, and Uncle Harry's doing this, and Uncle Harry is a close friend of the family, a relative, sometimes mum and dad and the teacher may think the child's making things up. And if the child isn't, that's horrendous. So what do you do? And what if Uncle Harry is innocent? And what if the child thinks, I'll get some attention here and make this up? You've got to believe the child, haven't you?
Yeah, the child comes first no matter what. Everything else is collateral damage. I know it's bad and it's hard to say that, but that's what it is. I mean, if one of my grandchildren went to their parents and said, Granddad touched me or whatever else, I mean, I'd expect nothing less than to be, raked over the coals, inquested, and it'll hurt. It'll really hurt. But at the same time, the parents are doing what they should do, what my parents didn't do. They didn't listen. They might have heard me, but they did not listen. And when they did listen, I found out that they knew. So, I mean, it's a can of worms. But children must be listened to and heard, and action has to be taken, whether it's, and the person might not be guilty. But at the same time, you've got to sit back and go, the children first. That's the way it is.
You've got to believe the child. And then if you're wrong, well, you're wrong. But you can't possibly get that one wrong and allow abuse to keep going.
Exactly.
It's so terrible, isn't it? It is so terrible. And then we find out that this creature that was abusing children all over Australia slipped through the net on many, many occasions and could have been stopped a lot earlier. So hopefully we get on top of all that. I hope this isn't too triggering for you, Bill.
No, not at all. Like I said, I'm out there. I like to, expose it all. And it's one of those things that I'll never stop doing, because the more people that speak about it and the openness of it all, the better it is. It's just one of those things. It's a shame, though, that what really pisses me off is why politicians suppress certain names of people that were pedophiles or were, suppressing those names is wrong.
Yeah.
But, that's another can of worms.
Yeah, but hey, listen, Bill, we've discussed this before, and the reason is naming names and outing people could well then identify the victim. So while the victim is under the age of 18, I get that, unless the victim wants to come forward and say, yep, that was me. But while they're a minor, I think their identities have got to be protected. I think that's why. It's interesting, your background as a private investigator and the amount of court cases you've been to, and you've just listed one. There was an interesting story about a former Secret Service interrogator who has revealed the two things that make him believe he's being lied to. And I want to ask you, do you reckon you'd make a good magistrate or a good judge? Can you pick now, with all your years of experience on your odometer of life, can you pick if someone's lying? The former US Secret Service interrogator, the name is Desmond O'Neill, recently discussed the topic during an appearance on the Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast. The interrogator explained that it was down to two things, corrections and complications. For example, if you're recalling the events of your day to someone and misremember something, you're able to casually correct yourself. When it comes to complications, O'Neill explained that nobody's day goes perfect, which is something. When complications are introduced to a story, people who lie don't do that. He says, which is usually because someone who is lying may have rehearsed their story right down to the last detail. Meanwhile, a person who's telling the truth will often introduce complications in their story as this is just what happened. Bill, your response, can you tell when someone's lying?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at people reading. I am very good at that. But I've got to say also, I explored this many years ago when, before facial recognition and all that stuff came out. And, certain people were saying, if you touch your nose when you talk, you're lying. You touch your chin or you scratch your head, you're lying. Now, I do all those things now. I make sure I do them, and I do them purposely. I tug on the ear when I talk, and then they'll go, oh, that's a lie. Or I'll touch my nose, you're not telling the truth. Or I'll look sideways, or I'll look to the left. I do all those things on purpose now. And when I people watch, I notice people, certain, attitudes and things like that. And I can pick things up. Do I correct them? No. Do I pull them up? No. every person on the planet lies. Every person on the planet's got a skeleton in the closet. Let them go. You know, if it's a white lie or something, let it go. If it's, if it's to do with a crime, that's different. But, you know, we all got little quirks and things. I don't really have a problem with it at all, unless I'm investigating some serious matter and I can, I have this thing where I can stare at somebody in their eyes and not turn away. And that usually unsettles a lot of people.
Yeah, I bet it does. Have you ever been on a jury?
No, I refuse to do any jury duty.
But it's your civic duty.
Yeah, maybe. But I got to say, as you probably know through the book, I'm dyslexic. But I have what they call a very slow processor. So it takes me a bit of time to gather all the information, understand it, and then reply to that information. Whereas in the past, I'd reply straight away. If someone said something, I'd just hit them with something and I'd be wrong. 9 times out of 10, I'd be wrong. I'd be just acting on impulse. Whereas I didn't realize I had a slow processor, but I have. So now I realize that I've got to sit there and I've got to gather all that information in. And for me to sit on a jury, each day that would follow, I'd be a day behind. I'd be trying to process the previous day. So, yeah, it'd be very hard.
So how do you, well, I don't want to encourage people to break the law, but how do you get out of jury duty? You would never get picked. Once they knew who you were and what you did, that you'd never make it onto a jury.
Yeah, basically that's true. The times that I have been picked, I just let them know exactly what I just said to you, that my process server is very slow. It takes me time and I don't look at things like everybody else. Whilst everybody else is in the box, I'm outside the box trying to get in. And then once I say that, they just go, oh, thanks very much. See you later.
I would love to be in a jury just to get a look at how our system works from the inside. I'd love to.
Yeah, but the problem is once you get in there and you see how the system works, you'd be that frustrated and pissed off with it that it'd become part of your thing, especially you.
Yeah, you'd be disenfranchised for life.
Yeah.
And your faith in our legal system might just go down the gurgler, or it could be reinforced. You never know.
Oh, you never know.
You never know. Listen, Bill, there was a lot more I wanted to get to today, but you got to go and I got to go. When can we talk again? Because I love our chats.
Mate, anytime. I'm available to you anytime you want, mate. I really am. I enjoy it. I have a great time. And like I say, I love listening to your listeners and reading their emails and comments. And it's great. I mean, you have a great following. You have some really educated and dedicated people that follow you. They're terrific people.
Well, my motto is I don't want to tell people what to think. I just like giving people something to think about. What's your message? What's your Christmas message?
Yeah, that's a good question. Over 60 million people die every year. If you've made it to Christmas, congratulations. If you make it to New Year, happy holidays. I got to say, stay safe, but die living. Live like there's no tomorrow.
What's the quote from the Shawshank Redemption? Get busy living or get busy dying.
Yeah, that's it. You got it. Yeah, live. Whatever you do, just live.
I was thinking the other day, Christmas is a time where most people get to spend with their families, have a meal, see people they haven't seen for a while, go to different families' houses, and some people just stay home alone. They're the lucky bastards.
Yeah, and you know what? We're all sitting here feeling sad for them, and they are the lucky bastards sitting back going, they haven't, I can understand there'd be a lot of hurt in the world in certain places, but at the same time, it's not bad just to sit back and relax and have no one around. I love my own time too. I'm very happy with my own peace and quiet, and it's nice. But I do love the family.
Reflection can be a good thing, but to all those people who can't be with the people they want to be with, our thoughts are with you, and we are with you, and we'll have plenty more to come. Bill Edgar, the Coffin Confessor, thank you for another confession session. We love you, buddy. Thank you, and good luck with the mini-series.
No, thank you, and hope to chat soon. Take care, and hi to all your listeners. Take care, stay safe, die living.
Time for a little bit of bush wisdom from our favourite bush wisdom provider. It is Granny Sue from Yorkeys Knob, Far North Queensland. Hello, my darling.
Hello, my Luke. How are you, my dear?
I'm good, and the millennial is here with us too. Thank you for joining us today. Usually we have a bit of fun, and we'll try and have a bit of fun towards the end of our conversation, but everybody's heart is very heavy today after what's transpired at Bondi last night. At the recording of today's podcast, 16 dead, 15 innocent people, one shooter.
Yeah.
We find out that the shooters were father and son, a 50-year-old and a 24-year-old. And that the father was licensed to have 6 guns and was known to police. 6 guns. I mean, I guess if you're a farmer and you need firearms for pest control,
yeah,
I get that. But why would anyone living in the centre of Sydney want 6 guns? And they were licensed, but he was known to police. And the hatred that's going on, the anti-Semitism, which has been festering for a long, long time, things have got to change. Granny Sue, up at Yorkeys Knob, how was the feeling up there with what happened at Bondi?
Well, I don't know. I haven't been out talking to people today. I just know how I feel, and I think it's absolutely disgusting. And if this man was known to police, how could he get a rifle licence to begin with? Because you have to pass pretty rigorous checks on the police. And if he was already known to police, how come he ended up with a licence? That's something that should be looked into as well. But I watched the news last night when it was all unfolding, and I was absolutely shocked at what was going on. And how dare somebody bring that garbage into our country, and how did they get in here anyway? Are they part of this immigration thing that's been going on, or what is going on? I don't understand what's going on.
Well, we don't know everything at the recording of this podcast because police are sitting on information while it develops. So as at the recording of today, lots of questions remain unanswered. Now, when they say known to police, it doesn't necessarily mean he had a criminal record, but he may be associated with people who are known to police. I don't know. We don't know the answer yet, and I can't wait for those bloody answers. Granny,
If we ever get them.
You grew up in the bush. You grew up on farms, and farmers and people who live on farms have to have firearms, correct?
Yes.
Why would somebody living in suburban Sydney need 6?
Unless they are a member of a rifle club and regularly go shooting, that's a whole different story. But to have them just for recreational thing, I have absolutely no idea. I surrendered my gun when I came to live in town because I did have a gun, which I carried with me all the time. And I decided when I was retiring and moving into town that it was something that I didn't need to have anymore. Even though I had it in my car and it was locked up all the time, if somebody pinched my car, then it's my fault because the rifle's already there. So I surrendered my rifle. And I don't think anybody that lives in town needs to have a rifle unless they are with a gun club or something similar.
But if you are a member of a gun club, why would you need to keep the gun at home? Do you think gun club members should keep their guns at the clubhouse under lock and key?
Well, yes, but those guns, even if they are in the house, have to be in a locked safe anyway. But
who's patrolling that? How do people know?
Well, they do checks. So if you belong to a gun club, your reason for owning a gun is because you wanted to go clay pigeon shooting or target shooting, whatever. You shoot at that rifle club, it does not leave the premises. And if you go out there one day and say, I'm going to take my guns, you're not allowed.
Yeah.
You're just not allowed. They stay at the gun club. Why can't that be legislated?
Well, I can't see why it can't be legislated, but also there's no limit on how many you can own. All right, you've got one at the golf club, one at the gun club, but what's to say that even though as you have a license, you can go and buy a gun anywhere if you've got a license. And you don't have to say, yes, I'm going to leave it at the thing. You just have to, they just tell you to make sure it's under lock and key. And you can't store the bullets with it. And you are supposed to take the firing pin out when you store it. But not everybody does those things. I know that for a fact.
The other thing that's bamboozling police at this point is how they managed to acquire so much ammunition. Because of the amount of bullets fired, there's somewhere between 50 and 60. they said, the guns had to have been semi-automatic. But an expert was on Channel 7 Sunrise this morning who said, no, I've looked at the footage.
Yeah.
It's not an automatic or a semi, but the amount of – they may have had a special magazine that can hold a lot of bullets, but they were firing and reloading, and reloading. But that's –
I did see in some of the in the footage of the father taking down one of the shooters, just before he gets grabbed by Ahmed, you can see the shooter reloading. You can see him grabbing something out of his bag and putting something in the gun, which I assume are bullets. So, yeah, I don't think it was a semi-automatic or anything. It took him a hot sec to load them in there, but I just never imagined people walking around Sydney, because I live in Kensington, which is about 15 minutes from Bondi. I just never imagined that I could be walking down the street next to somebody who could have a gun in their pocket, who takes advantage.
That's a handgun.
I know, but who could take advantage of their license just because, and any one of us could be walking down the street. That to me is the most shocking thing ever.
And since Port Arthur, Granny Sue, I thought, well, it looks as though we may have gun crime beat. Of course, illegal guns will always be available. You can buy anything illegal. But we did seem to have a handle on it until what happened in Bondi last Sunday. So you can get hold of anything, an illegal gun, a handgun, but because we'd seen such a huge rise in the spate of knife crime, I thought, well, that's the next thing, which is terrible, but a knife can't cause the same amount of destruction as a gun, let alone a semi-automatic.
They did find a device in one of their cars as well.
An incendiary device, an explosive device in a car parked at Bondi in Campbell Parade. So we're going to have to look at our laws and who we let into this country, and not just that, people who are born here who are easily indoctrinated, Granny Sue.
That's true. Now, about the bullets, I don't know about Queensland, but I know in the Northern Territory in Western Australia, if you hold a gun licence, you have to take that gun licence to buy bullets. That's the only way you can get. They won't sell them over the counter unless you have a licence. But that doesn't mean to say that those people haven't got their bullets from the Northern Territory or from overseas.
Or from the internet.
That's exactly right. So there's no sort of control on that sort of stuff. And I saw them loading the guns last night on the bridge. They showed a bloke loading his gun and he was just putting the bullet in and pulling the lever back and cocking it. So it definitely wasn't semi-automatic or anything like that. I could put 10 bullets up the spout of my gun and one in, so I'd have 11 bullets that I could just, every time I pressed the trigger, it went.
Wow.
It wasn't one of those. So I don't know what they're going to do, but it's really devastating to me that people that were just celebrating and had nothing to do with anything are just targeted for absolutely no reason except hate.
Children were there. Children.
A child died.
A child died.
There was a 12-year-old injured in critical condition in hospital. What about that hero that tackled the son, the younger gunman, sneaks up between two cars and tackles him from behind, puts him in a headlock and takes the gun off him? But what about that footage, eh?
Well, I just wish that then he'd had people helping him that could have grabbed that bloke and just held him for the police.
Yeah. There was still a shooter up on the bridge.
His father.
Yeah, his father. Or it might have been the father. I don't know. We still need to get confirmation on who was who, but you would be pretty scared. Though I think there was someone running in behind Ahmed, and then there was another guy with a brick that was throwing a brick at him. But you would be terrified out of your brain to jump in on a situation like that.
But Ahmed was shot as well.
Yeah, he was.
He spent the night in hospital, Granny Sue. He's a hero, isn't he?
Oh, he definitely is. But you realise that the adrenaline would have been so high that he wouldn't have even his brain wouldn't have even been working. It would have been, the adrenaline would have been just flowing like you would not believe. It's like in a car accident. If your adrenaline is really, really high, you can lift a car off somebody because you've got that extra sort of boost. And exactly the same thing would have happened last night. But it is the most devastating thing, I think, to happen in Australia, I agree, since Port Arthur.
I think we will see some more gun laws coming out of this. What do you think needs to be considered when we are, talking about implementing new gun laws? Because as we know, people still need to be using guns and there will be a use case for them. From I guess, like a regional perspective, somebody that uses guns in the right way, what do you think needs to be considered when no doubt there will be stricter gun laws coming out of this incident?
I think it should depend on your address. If you live in a city, you have no need for a gun unless you own a gun club. But I don't think anything much will change. They will bring in new laws and stuff. But as Luke said, you can get guns or anything anywhere if you really want to. There's a way and a means around to get anything. And that will always be the case. And anybody that wants to do something like this won't have any trouble to get what they want.
It's funny, because when you hear about gang criminal activity and criminals shooting each other, no one talks about gun laws. They go, oh, well, because they're baddies shooting baddies. This is completely different. And the other thing that horrifies me is if this incident at Bondi had happened in America, no one would blink.
No one would blink, yeah.
Because we're used to it.
Because it happens every second day over there. But it's put the world on notice, I can tell you. There's a lot of stuff going on.
There is a lot of stuff going on. Well, look, thank you for your wisdom on that, because Kelsey and I don't own guns. I lived in the bush with friends who used to go fox shooting and rabbit shooting. And they had 22s with scopes, and they also had 33 shotguns, double barrel.
No, that's double barrels. 303 is what they used in the army.
Okay, so they had 22s. I know they had 22s, but they had double barrel shotguns as well. And they used them exclusively for rabbits, pigs, and foxes. But
mine was a 308.
What's that?
Pretty volatile rifle. If you hit something, it was dead.
I have a mate whose parents used to go pig shooting on trail bikes. And honestly, they could shoot on a trail bike. And they said, if you've got a big wild boar chasing you, it's got to be a headshot, and it has to be, you got one shot. So they had semi-automatic weapons with huge, and they used to make their own.
Yeah,
they used to make their own ammunition in the garage downstairs because because they said you got a boar chasing you, you had to drop it straight away. Anyway,
well, I have had a boar coming at me, and I'm in the middle of a flat with only little skinny trees, and there's no way I could get away, so I had to stand, hold my breath, and shoot him, and he dropped at my feet. Yes, I've had that.
How big are boars?
Boars are the male pig, love. We go.
You're like the cow. Let's not go down the cow path again, Kelsey.
Yeah, sorry.
What's beef? There's beef cows. Oh, God, remember that?
So a boar is just a male pig. Right.
Yes.
Do they have horns?
Tusks.
Tusks,
They
yes.
have tusks.
Right. So they're pretty dangerous.
Very aggressive.
Right.
They'll kill you.
Really?
Oh, yes. And I've seen them rip a dog in half. They just rip them from one end to the other quite often. So, and they will kill a person without any doubt at all.
That's scary. So you can understand why, people in areas where there are boars and other pests, they would need guns for protection. You can understand that. But I can't wrap my head around why anyone in a metro area would need a gun in their house. I think only gun clubs should hold guns, and you shoot them there, and then you go home, and that's it.
That's what I said. I think to get a gun, but see, how do we know that those guns were legal?
Well, the gun club would have to be registered and stuff. You'd have to have.
Yeah, but this man that's shot these people had 6 guns. How do we know that any of those guns were legal?
On the news this morning, they did say that all of the 6 firearms were registered.
Well, that's okay. Then why? The only way they can stop this is by going on address. If he lives in a metro area or in a city, he's got no reason to have those guns, or that many guns anyway.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree with that.
I think that's probably the only way they can do it, but it's not going to stop it. Believe me, guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Granny Sue, just before we move on to something else, if you want an education into what a boar is, okay, it's Australia's outback version of Jaws, and it was made in 1984. And it's a movie called Razorback. And it's got an amazing cast in it.
Isn't Razorback the blockade?
No, that's a place.
Right, okay.
This is a razorback, which is a large feral boar.
It's a type of boar?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's called Razorback. And it has an amazing cast. Archie Whiteley. Did you ever watch Mad Max 2? She was the little blonde girl that runs off with Bruce Spencer in the chopper. Anyway, Bill Kerr's in it. Chris Haywood's in it. Judy Morris is in it. Amazing cast. Terrible movie, but it's about a rogue, huge
pig,
as big as a V-dub.
Right.
It's as big as a V-dub bug.
Right.
And it's rogue. It's kind of Australia's version of Jaws on land.
Right. Okay. That does not sound appealing.
Have you seen that movie, Granny Sue, Razorback?
Yes, I have.
What do you think of it?
Oh, it was, to put it bluntly, pure shit. But
So was Jaws.
Yeah.
yeah, so was Jaws. But it gives people a bit of an idea how dangerous they are. I mean, they're not quite that big, but they will, because they hit you, and they can travel at sometimes 30, 40 k's an hour. They're fast. And if they hit you, they'll knock you off your feet, and then they'll just disembowel you. That's just the way it is.
And eat you because they eat meat. Razorback, 1984 Australian movie. Go on, I dare you to watch it.
We were watching Last Stop Larimer last night, and there's one of the theories as to how Paddy died, who's kind of the whole documentary is centered around how Paddy died. One of the theories was that he was eaten by the crocodile, but maybe someone just fed him to the boar.
Yeah, well, that's a whole lot of theories on that too. I've been to that place, and it's very bit different. Well, a lot of people say that he's in the pies that lady sells. So I
no,
Franny's pies.
Oh Jesus! Listen, I just wanted to get some advice from you before we let you go for Christmas. Is this our last chat with Granny Sue for Christmas?
Yeah, I think we might be going to break next week.
Yeah, Granny Sue. If you've got people coming to visit and stay with you over the Christmas break, or if you are going to someone's house and as a guest over Christmas, I want to know what the Granny Sue rules of etiquette are. Now, can I just run some things past you and you tell me what you think, all right?
Yep.
Okay. Do you expect your guests to tidy up, to help with the washing up, to keep their room clean?
Not necessarily.
The bathroom bench with toothpaste stains and everything, should they wipe that up?
Well, most of them would naturally, but no, I don't expect.
No, they don't.
You get funny guests then.
Luke's looking at me dead square in the eyes right now as you said that.
Now, I've got to ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
If somebody else's kids are being ratbags, is it okay to correct the manners of somebody else's child?
That depends on how bad it is. I look at it, my house, my rules. Most people that come to my house know my rules, and so they don't do it anyway. But mostly I don't have much trouble with that sort of stuff, and I don't know that I would say anything except I might have a quiet word to mum and dad. But
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think the smart move is to give the parents a warning, and then if the kid is still acting up and the parents have done nothing, then it's fair game. Once you've spoken to the parents, if the parents haven't done anything, they haven't corrected the behaviour, I think after that point, it's fair game.
Okay, what about can grandparents correct?
Oh, yeah, they can, yeah.
Can grandparents correct the manners of their grandchildren?
Yeah.
Even if mum and dad are there?
yes,
I think
because
so, yeah.
have come to your house, the parents know your rules anyway, and they would expect that you would say something if that was the case.
Okay, grandparents can. Okay.
Poppy used to discipline us when we went to their house. I remember getting smacked up and down those stairs.
Nikki's dad?
Yeah.
No, he never.
Yeah.
Did he smack you?
Yeah, he was a smacker.
God, I wish I'd seen that.
Corporal punishment, absolutely.
Wish I'd had that on video.
I remember it very clearly.
He smacked you?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to ask him. Are you sure you
100%.
Are you putting extra, as my daughter would say, are you putting some extra mayo on this?
No, absolutely not. He wouldn't smack us hard, but he would give us a tap on the bum. I think he was very much into the intimidation tactics.
Did Granny smack you?
Oh, not that I can remember.
Or did she just threaten you with Jesus?
Yeah, threatened us with Jesus.
Yeah.
But one time the smacks were deserved. One time I pushed Bronte down the stairs and I got a belting over that.
A poppy belting?
Yeah.
Like a whack?
Yeah, oh yeah. Whack.
Really?
I did push Bronte down the stairs, so it was deserved.
I can understand it.
Yeah.
You really, Poppy smacked you?
Yeah, I don't know why you're so
I can't imagine it.
Oh, you don't know Poppy then.
Have you ever smacked your grandchildren, Granny Sue?
No, because I've never lived close enough to my children when they were growing up. I mean, most of my grandchildren now are all grown up, so no, I would have if they'd needed it, but I was never around. My kids I left home and gone other places, so.
Okay, fair enough. Last question.
Before you get into that, I have been given a laptop for Christmas, so as soon as I get it, it's on the way now, and as soon as I get it, I will start writing my story, and I'm going to put it on a USB stick, and I will send you down a stick when I get it done.
Stick. Oh my God, Granny Sue, I'm going to have to show you how to upload stuff to Google Drive, aren't I?
Are you going to send it via a courier pigeon?
Granny Sue, just write it on Google Docs and then you can literally share the doc.
Just write on a document and email it to her.
No, Google Docs. You can share the document.
Don't get me too technical, Kelsey.
it's not
Kelsey will fly up there.
Yeah. How about I jump on a call with you, Granny Sue, and I can walk you through how to use a laptop?
Let Kelsey give you a tutorial over the phone, okay?
I have a son that's really good with this sort of stuff, and he is my go-to person.
Okay.
But yes, I will go to have any information, but I want to put it onto a USB stick anyway, because that's the only way I can keep it and make sure that I keep it forever and if something happens to everything else.
And then put it in the bank.
I just don't think I've ever seen, I can't remember the last time I've seen someone use a USB stick.
Get over it, Kelsey. Keep moving forward.
Yeah, okay.
Last question for Granny Sue and Kelsey.
Yep.
How do you react to a really bad present? Someone's giving you a present, they're excited, and you unwrap it, and it's it's the worst jumper you've ever seen, or just something what do you do when someone gives you a bad present? What's your method?
Well, I say, oh, this is lovely. Thank you. Then I put it in the cupboard to give away to somebody else.
Yep, that sounds about right. Remember that listener? I think it was Tony from Inglewood. He got a pen from everyone in the family in the hopes that he would write some postcards, but all he got was pens. That's a terrible Christmas present.
You can always tell when the present you've given someone is shit if they repeat what it is. Oh, a pen.
A pen.
That means
you've done shit.
Oh, Auntie Joss, some wool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, I think you've got to play it up.
So I just say, oh, thanks. That's lovely. And open the next parcel because I'd be busy.
Yeah.
And then I'd put it in the cupboard to give away to somebody else or give it to welfare. I didn't really care. But
have you had a shit present before?
Worst present you've ever been given?
Divorce papers.
3 times.
I suppose was a chainsaw.
I thought that would be quite useful,
you'd
wouldn't
love
I?
that, wouldn't you? Oh, Nikki would love a chainsaw.
Yeah.
I never used a chainsaw. Never in my life, because I've always had men around from my dad who was really, really good at chainsawing, and my husbands were all very good, so I've never used a chainsaw in my life. But somebody thought, when my ex, who's now my ex, gave it to me, I said, why? And he said, well, I need the chainsaw and I need an excuse.
Oh, that's rude. That's just rude. It's like when someone buys their partner a vacuum for Christmas. That's a household present.
I know. I have a mate called Gary in Young, and he bought his wife for her birthday, this is no joke,
an oven.
Lawnmower blades.
Oh, what an idiot.
No, I'm not joking. And when you get a chainsaw, everyone who owns a chainsaw and loves their chainsaw will say this, never lend it. If you can, say, I'll come and do it for you because...
And you never lived a lot of things. Anything you really, really need, like one thing you never lend is a hat. You never lend anybody your hat. It's a no-no.
Is it?
Your hat is your personal thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. And what about my special reclining leather chair that Nikki bought me?
What about it?
Other people use it.
Oh, get over it.
I'm out of it 2 seconds and someone's in it.
No, that's a bit like your hat. That's your chair.
Yeah, thank you.
No one uses it.
Thank you.
Yeah, just go, Luke. You put your little mark on it. Thank you very much. Just keep out of my chair.
Thank you very much, Granny Sue. Granny Sue, we're going to let you go for Christmas. What's your Christmas message for all our listeners?
Have a wonderful time. Be nice to each other. And most of all, look after each other. We're all very special and we need to be kind.
Granny Sue, we love you. Have a great Christmas. We'll be thinking of you. And Kelsey will be in touch to help you with your
laptop.
With your laptop.
I won't be. I'll be needing. I've got to write a whole heap of stuff first before I can do anything. All right, lovey. You just have a wonderful Christmas. I will talk to you next year.
Yay!
And don't do anything I wouldn't enjoy.
Well, what does that leave us?
And not much.
Goodbye.
Get your diesel running. Head out on the highway. Missing all the roadkill. Oh, watch out. Another Truckie Tuesday. Indicate when you're changing from lanes. Do not brake check me in my prime. Australia moves.
Time for Truckie Tuesday with Rocket Rod Hannafy. Rod, good morning to you, buddy. Where are you now?
Bit of sound effects there, mate. I'm at a little place called Jamestown, and there never used to be much here, but they've opened up a servo, and I pulled up last night thinking, I should be able to get a coffee there in the morning, and I parked in front of somebody's building. And now I see there's a big parking area at the back, so I'm going to go and say sorry in a minute.
Where are you? Jamestown.
Jamestown. Yes, I'm on my way back from Whyalla to Dubbo.
Okay, where's Jamestown? What thriving metropolis is this?
Yes, exactly, yes. If you from Port Augusta, you head towards Adelaide, but then you turn off and you go through Gladstone, big jail there, an old jail that's been shut down, and here's a nail that I'll pick up off the road for somebody else not to run over. And then there's a tiny little village called Kaltowie, and then you come to Jamestown, then you go to Peterborough, very historic old rail town.
What's Jamestown famous for? You had to think about it.
I don't know. There was a lovely display in there about a big cattle drive recognising Sir Mr. Kidman and R.M. Williams. So that looked really nice in the survey. It's only new.
Isn't that lovely? Nicole Kidman's father's famous. Hey, listen, bit to get through today.
We do.
Let's go. Last week we got a message from Danny. G'day, Luke. My name is Danny. I've been listening to your podcast on Spotify for a little while and really like Truckie Tuesday. I was wondering if you would like a truck song to play for that show. I have a single called A Truck Thing. It's out on all the streaming platform services if you're interested in having a listen. So, Rod, let us have a listen. You with me?
Absolutely.
Blowing black smoke with every mile. Gearing up, gearing down, that's just how it is. Out here in the West is where it begins. Pedal to the metal, that's how we live life. Chasing them dreams and getting in strife. We don't leave our families behind to jump in that truck just one more time. You climb up, get in, turn that key, grab that gear and let the turbo sing. Keeping the pedal down, rain, hail or shine. It's a truck thing, baby.
I like it. That is Danny Bevan. Danny Bevan. It's called A Truck Thing. Well, I quite like that, Rocket.
Yeah, something different, mate, and there's a bit more about it. I was actually just talking to a young man from New Zealand who's come all the way back to Australia to drive stock crates for a company called Tanami Transport in the Northern Territory. They have sort of two-tone brown trucks, and I was over taking a photo. Said g'day and told him about the podcast, mate. He wasn't aware of it yet, so there'll be another listener soon.
We need all the listeners we can get, and we need them to tell their friends and their friends and their enemies and their friends.
Yes.
Rod, we've got another voice message here. Let's have a listen.
Yeah, I'm just having issues with the NHVR reporting line. They don't appear to be doing anything. I've been with a company for about 3 or 4 years that forces drivers to do runs outside legal limits. And few drivers have been ringing the NHVR hotline over the last 12, 18 months with nothing happening. We've stopped on the side of the road when we see the NHVR compliance officers, told them all about it, emailed in run sheets, rego numbers, everything like that for about 18 months and nothing's happening. Just wondering if Luke or Rod or anyone can give us any further information about who we can contact in HVR to get this stopped before somebody gets killed.
Rod.
Mate, that's a problem on so many levels. A, that's what they're being forced to do. B, we have discussed this once before in that, and then look, he said they've been doing it for months and there's more than one doing it. So if you as Fred Nurk ring the NHVR and say, that Luke Boner, he's an asshole and he does this and he makes me do that, they can't just rush out and raid your house and go through your books and cart you off to jail. They've got to do a lot of background work behind it. Like anything, they must do an investigation. They've got to then make sure that they're right before they go and attack somebody. And we would ask, if you were the poor bloke being attacked, that they would do that anyway. So the fact, though, that they've been doing it, they've even mentioned it to officers on the road, I think that's one that I need to bring up with them. I have raised such issues before, and they've said there is a process, and that's sort of how it works. We can't just rush out. But whether he's left you the name of the company, Luke, whether he's done that off here, I don't know. I'm happy to pursue it. All they can do is keep records. Now, I spoke to another driver the other day. He'd been involved in an incident, thought he was unfairly treated. I said, do you have a record? Do you keep a diary? No. I said, right, absolutely right. This instance, sit down, write a written record of the incident so that you have something, because that can be used in court. Otherwise, it comes down to the fact it's he said, she said. Now, he even said there they've sent worksheets in and things like that. I don't know what more they can do. If you've got his details and a name, I'm happy to pursue it because we don't want people being pushed. It's that time of year, Luke. I've had a really big week. Others are going to be asked to do things if they can. That's one thing. If you can do it safely and you're comfortable and it's legal, then, you do the best you can to get the job done. But if they're continually being forced to break the law, then they're a risk and so are others, and that's no good. And it's sad that it's got to the point where he doesn't know what to do.
All right. Now, he hasn't left the name of the company, but if he's a listener, can we ask him to get back to us, leave us more details, and, Rod, you can refer it to the NHVR, but you can't do much more without more info.
Exactly right. Yep. But, yeah, we've got sort of real worries about what he's doing now.
Listen, just a question here from the millennial. With this tragedy that's happened at Bondi, what happens logistically with transport? Because obviously going through some metropolitan areas is just terrible at the moment, and we totally understand. What happens with our goods getting from A to B when something like this happens?
Mate, it depends. Sometimes there are provisions made for trucks to get through, and depending on what the circumstance is. And look, even if you go back to Razorback that we've discussed a couple of times, they always let the medical supplies and things like that through. Stuff that's critical for hospitals and the like are generally sort of found a way to get there. We don't want other people being injured or hurt more because of the fact that they've closed the road off and something can't get somewhere. But in a tragedy like that, the precedence takes, life and limb and all that sort of stuff. And, mate, geez, what can you say about that, eh? It's not a place where we thought we lived.
No, I know, and we've talked about that a lot on this podcast. It's just terrible.
Yep.
It is just absolutely terrible. All right. Now, look, two other news stories. You remember how we talked earlier in the year about how Western Australia was introducing new fixed and trailer-mounted safety cameras? Well, they're operating, and I tell you what, they're catching people. Some people will argue it's all revenue related. Some people will say, no, it really is there for safety. Here are some facts. Between October 8 and November 8, more than 31,855 infringements have been issued for offences. And those offences include 12,288 for mobile phone use, 10,285 for seatbelt offences, and 9,282 for speeding offences. There was a high number of infringement issued to drivers whose passenger was incorrectly wearing a seatbelt. Touching or holding a mobile phone while driving carries a minimum $500 fine, 3 demerit points, while penalties for failing to wear a seatbelt start at $550 and 4 demerit points. Now, Rod, before I get your opinion on all of this, according to the WA government, these AI-powered safety cameras have allegedly revealed some really disturbing insights into driving behaviour. And that includes a truck driver with no hands on the steering wheel operating a laptop computer.
Goodness me.
A truck driver using a mobile phone not wearing a seatbelt while driving 100 kilometres an hour on the Mitchell Freeway. A front seat passenger wearing no seatbelt. And get this, cradling an unrestrained baby. There was a driver with no hands on the steering wheel while using a mobile phone, driving 20 k's over the limit in a school zone. Now, those infringements began October the 8th, and that followed an extensive 8-month awareness and education program of which we were part of here. And during that period, no fines were issued. Your thoughts on these AI cameras? Good thing?
Look, mate, I suppose they haven't had anything over there for some time, and perhaps people have become complacent. We know that seatbelts save lives. And I must admit, years ago, mate, there were a lot of truck drivers who didn't wear belts because the belt was mounted to the pillar of the truck, and with the seat going up and down, I remember once I nearly broke my shoulder in a bad bump because the shocky had failed. So, there are still a few people that have medical exemptions because of seatbelts affecting them. But I've always said the people that survive an accident when they're not wearing it, tell everybody. The people that die because they weren't wearing it don't get that chance.
Yeah.
So we know they save lives, and I've got no problem with seatbelt cameras. People using phone, driving down the road, no hands on the wheel. I've said to you, the problem I see now is that many people actually sort of hold it down to their left, sort of down near their hip, because they think they're going to avoid the camera. And again, it's what, $5 or $10 to buy a mount that you can mount the phone on, and it's safe and it's up there and you can still use it legally as long as you use hands-free and voice-activated stuff. Why people think that, I'm the best driver in the world, we know everybody does, but we know it causes accidents. And unless you've got a $5 billion phone call coming through that's going to change your life, is any other call, unless it's somebody hurt and your family hurt, that important that you can't either buy a mount or wait till you pull up. So, again, I have no problem with that. And, of course, the speeding they're picking up as well. As I say, they've probably been a bit complacent over there. It's terrible that the figures are so high. The things you've quoted show that there is a problem. And in some ways, they may well have even saved people's lives with those cameras or with those fines. That's, people don't look at it that way. And you've already had people say, well, it's all about revenue. But there's another side to it sometimes, Luke. I was about to go to Port Augusta, and a driver said, he said, there's a new rule in at Port Augusta now. Oh, yeah, what's that? He said, it's 40 kilometres for all trucks. Oh, that's interesting. So as you come into Port Augusta and you're about to sort of enter the town after the long straight coming in there, there is a tiny little sign on the left-hand side that's only about 3 feet tall that says, remember, road trains 40 kilometres an hour. Now, there's none coming in from the other side where you come in from Whyalla or from Darwin or Perth. And how are people supposed to know that? Now, they've had that 8-month campaign. They've done the right thing. I'm sure that the things are fairly visible. We all know that they stand out like dog's balls on those big posts looking at you when you come along to them. So, you're supposed to be watching where you're going, what you're doing. Then you see the camera. Anyway, that's another side to it. But there's one thing in doing it like that, another in bringing in a rule and not telling anybody and having no signs. So how is a driver in a road train, and it actually only applies to road trains, not to B-doubles, it's not all trucks, but how is anybody that hasn't been there for a month or a year or whatever supposed to know about that rule when there's one tiny sign? So it's got to work both ways, mate.
All right, we'll make the sign bigger and make it both ways.
Yes, like if you come in beside a car, if there's a car beside you as you pass the sign, you wouldn't even see it. You wouldn't know it's there.
Yeah. Getting back to the seatbelts, isn't this a failure with the manufacturers if the seatbelts are uncomfortable when you go over bumps? Can't they make the seatbelts better?
It was, and yes, they have. So what happens now, and that's why I said in the past. So in the past, it was located at the shoulder post, and as the seat went up and down, you came up underneath it and it pulled you back into the seat, nearly broke your back. So now they actually mount to the seat. So whilst you still have a seat belt that attaches from the seat to the floor as a secondary part, the seat belt is firmly attached to the seat, so it moves up and down with you. So it was a problem in the early days. It has been fixed as you suggest, mate.
It just seems silly if the seat belts are causing the drivers discomfort to the extent where they don't want to wear them. Change the design, but you've just explained it. Rod, there was a story in Big Rig that I wanted to ask you about. The headline is, still no progress on recommendations of 57-year-old report to make level crossings safer. We've talked about level crossings. The article reads, if I ignore a safety hazard on our cattle station and an employee is killed, I am instantly liable for industrial manslaughter charges. So I'm completely at a loss to understand how safety recommendations made 57 years ago in a 109-page report entitled Railway Level Crossing Protection in WA, including the fitting of beacon lighting on trains and the painting yellow of rolling stock, that's wagons and carriages, for greater visibility and safety still haven't been actioned by the rail industry or legislated by the government almost 6 decades later. Rod?
Things on this, when you're in a major capital city and you've got a crossover between a rail network, it's not quite so bad. You've got flashing lights, you've got all of those things. Once you get out into the country, the issue can be line of sight. We've discussed it, and look, the rail industry actually rang me at one stage and wanted me to promote a campaign they were doing. And they said, we want you to slow and look and be careful. And I said, that's fine. I said, I'm happy to take part in that if you do something. What do you mean? I said, well, you want us to slow down, so are you going to slow? Oh, no, we're not going to slow the trains down. Oh, right. So are you going to make sure that we can see it? No, we're not going to do that. So, look, that was a one-sided thing, and I just said, I'm sorry, I can't take part in something if you're not doing part of it as well. There have been people killed at crossings, we know that, and I did have somebody actually ask me, look, I'm sure you're aware that Victoria, Melbourne, did do a very big campaign. I think they were getting rid of over 100 crossings in Victoria, and look, a lot of money to build the road up over the train line, vice versa. Mostly the road goes over the train line, and they've done that to improve traffic, to reduce congestion and all those things. But somebody said to me, where did all those lights go? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, there's 100 railway crossings. They all had lights on them. Where'd they go? Why didn't they then take them out? Like, there's nothing wrong with them, unless they smashed them up when they took them down. You'd hope not. Why aren't they then transferred out into rural areas that have nothing but a stop sign and the crosses showing it's there without any lights? Now, that becomes the problem when you can't see. Now, rail line's been there for 40 years, all the trees have grown up, and if you're driving down the highway and you can see the train line and you can see whether a train is coming, then you can do a reasonably safe thing crossing over a rail crossing because you can see either way. But if you can't see for more than 200 metres one way because the trees have grown up over the last 30 years and some train comes waltzing round there, at 100 kilometres an hour, whatever the train limit might be and how big it is, there is an issue. And the rail, the marking, they've refused to put lights on the trains. And in some way, I do understand that. There's certainly been a big campaign. Many years ago, they did actually improve it by putting reflective stickers down the side loop. So during the day, if you can't see, 50 rail wagons driving across the road in front of you, there's something wrong. But at night, unless someone's coming the other way, certain times you couldn't see them. So they did go and put reflectors down the side so you'd pick it up at night. And look, I think there was a tanker driver killed many years ago at Parks where that was one of the things that brought that in because at night you simply didn't see them without anything on the side. Painting them yellow, don't know if that's really the solution to it. If it's got no reflector on it, unless it's really bright yellow and that's painting every rail wagon in Australia, they're going to say that costs too much. So there is more to do and there is things that can be done that it seems government think are too hard. And, the people that die then will complain that they haven't done it properly. And again, mate, it is partly the responsibility of the driver. Look, drive to the conditions. All of those things contribute as well.
Rod, just one more thing. I want you to explain what this Dust Bowl rest area is on the northbound section of the Hume Highway at Menangle. Yep. Apparently, truckies will be able to use the new rest area from Friday, December 19. It'll be officially known as the Menangle Truck Parking Bay. What is it? Mm-hmm. What does it mean? It's designed to accommodate oversized OSOM vehicles up to 125 metres long and 8 metres wide. That's all I know. Can you explain?
Mate, there was, on the way into Sydney, there is not enough parking bays. That's the first point. We don't have enough. So going into Sydney, there was like a little Sydney Harbour thing on the side of the road, and it was a dust bowl. It was just a big area of dirt, and because there were so few other places on the way into Sydney, a lot of truckies used it. So then the RTO, or Transport for New South Wales, came along, and they've signed all that up and said, this is an OSOM bay only. You can't use it unless you're oversize over mass. Now, we know there are curfews for oversize over mass vehicles. So again, if you've got your 5 metre wide house on or your turbine blade or something, you can't just pull up and go, oh, goodness me, I'm going to miss curfew. Where do I park this thing? I'll just stick it in my pocket and get it out later on. That doesn't happen. So they had to have provision for it, no problem at all. But what they did was they closed down one of the few spots we had going into Sydney. Even though it was the dust bowl, you could at least pull up, shut the window and go to sleep before you drove into the Sydney traffic. They closed that before they then started building the new site, which is opposite VC Partridge. And again, whilst they built a lovely bitumen bay there now on the inbound side, there are no toilets in there, Luke. So if you pull up there on your way into Sydney and you're busting, you'll be able to run across 4 lanes of the Hume Highway to use the toilets on the other side. That's a really good safety idea. Let's help people be safe, Luke.
Wow.
So, look, I'm a little bit critical of the fact that it's taken so long to get people to recognise that if they want us to be safe, if they want us to be able to manage our fatigue, we have to have bloody places to do it. And it's taken too long, and the money's there. We've got this funding available, but councils won't apply. No one will push it. Because it's co-funded, that's delayed it a little bit more. And, of course, when that committee was started, everybody thought, you'll have it all fixed tomorrow. Well, geez, mate, I wish that was the case.
Gotcha. I know. It's amazing, the IQ or lack thereof of some of these planners, isn't it? You really
It's really frustrating.
Truckies are the forgotten mob and so important to us. Rod, thank you for that. It's a shorter one today because you've got to go. We'll talk again very soon. What's your message? What's your lesson for the day?
Well, mate, I do have an announcement. So I've spoken to you about, yes, look out. I've spoken to you and to others about trying to have some sort of a group that recognises truckies and encourages them to do the right thing. Now, there's 200,000 truck drivers in Australia. There's probably 40 or 50 that are in associations. We tried before, mate. You might recall going back a few years, we tried the Truck That Australia Drivers Club. We had a few people join that. But the average driver sits out there. Nobody cares about him. Nobody recognises what he does, what he gives up, that he's never home, family, all those sorts of things. We have people in cars trying to kill us every day because no one teaches them about sharing the road with trucks. And all of those things mean some of those drivers sit there and go, well, I'm just going to drive the truck, and if they get in my way, I'm going to get up them and I'm going to push them out, whatever it might be. It's a pretty disheartening thing that's what you go to work to do. So we've started a thing called Knights of the Road. Now, it's only simply going to be a group. We have a code which we ask people to abide by. Do the right thing. Recognise that car drivers don't understand. And if, mate, we could get 10% of those 200,000 truck drivers to do one thing a day that's safer or improves how we're seen. And you said there before, mate, nobody cares about us. The public just want it delivered yesterday for nothing and on their doorstep ready for them to use. They don't care how it gets there or who has to give up his life to get it there. So we want them to be recognised. We want them to understand that somebody does care. We've got a website, knightsoftheroad.com.au. We've got a Facebook page the same. So we are asking drivers to have a look, to consider it. And as I say, I've done this for 25 years. Now, some people will say I've saved a few lives with the green reflectors, and others say, done some good work with the caravanners. But in 10 years' time, I still can't do much on my own.
No.
And I've tried the associations, been involved. But if we could get 10,000 truck drivers a day to do a positive thing, to let a car in, to give them a wave, to, be a bit more aware and think about it, we could really make a difference, because at the moment the industry is in dire straits. I'm sure you've seen a major company in Wagga has just gone into liquidation, yet another one. And that's a family company that's been there for 47 years.
Yeah.
A lot of issues involved in that we won't go into today. But all of those drivers now, what's going to happen to them? Are they going to have a job, the week before Christmas? So we want to do something simple and easy. There's no cost to join. I'm not going to police you if you don't do the right thing, but I'm going to ask you to consider it. And if people have a look and let us know what they think, mate, I hope we can make a difference.
Yeah, James Ward, my motoring expert from drive.com.au, he and I are working next year on celebrating and creating a national thank you wave day, but more on that next year. I've been working on it for a long time, but it's harder than you think. But a national thank you wave day, that's coming up.
And we'll be a part of that, Luke.
Yeah, oh, my bloody word. So there we go. Thank you for being with us, and thank you so much for sharing. Please spread the word and subscribe, download.
Yep.
YouTube, Spotify.
Yep.
Everywhere. And keep leaving us those messages, 0291289311. Luke Boner, that radio guy at gmail.com. And a reminder that I'll be doing afternoons on 2GB for 2 weeks starting Monday the 22nd.
How exciting. And do you have a thought of the day?
No, but it's something that I did
God.
Once on a dare. Because down the road there's a whole, what do you call it, an industrial area.
Yeah.
With factories. And someone dared me to do this ages ago. I printed out on a piece of paper a message. And I put it under the windscreen wiper of all the tradies' cars.
What did it say?
Call me ASAP. I'm pregnant.
Why?
Just to see what the reaction would be.
Did anyone call?
No, it didn't have my number.
Oh.
It was a note that just said, call me ASAP. I'm pregnant.
Oh, God. It would have been very shocking if there was a female tradie that was there.
Anyway, I just thought, I wonder what the reaction is. I never heard back. Just being a bit mischievous in my younger days. A couple of weeks ago.
Bye.
All right, look, the episode's done, but before you pull the keys out of the ignition or turn off the lights, here's the dare. Stop dreaming about that holiday and actually enter for the chance to win one. NatureBee is giving away 20 grand of travel anywhere you want. Bali, Broome, Barcelona, it doesn't matter. If it's under 20K, you keep the change. Spend $79.90 on NatureBee products and you're in the running. It's just that easy. So go on, hit the link in the notes or head to naturebee.com, read the T's and C's, and let's see where you end up.